Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our webinar today, in which we'll be exploring the nature of marketplaces in the telecommunications space and how you can capitalize on this exciting opportunity. So we're going to start with some introductions to speakers and general backgrounds, and then we'll move on to talking about what is a marketplace and what the hype is all about, then explore what is in it for your business, and then look at how you maximize the experience for your customers within traditional telco and marketplace products. And we'll finish off with some Q&A. So if you have any questions at any point that you want to ask, please find the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom console, and we'll answer them towards the end. So our speakers today are Vish, Kumar, and Darek Tasak. Vish is the VP of Industry Solutions at CloudSense, and during his career, he has worked in all areas of telecommunications, including the VNO, wholesale, SMB, B2B, and B2C segments. Darek is Global Head of Strategy and Commercial Operations at CloudBlue, whose work encompasses strategic alliances and partnerships, go-to-market services, pricing, contract management, as well as delivery of commercial programs and initiatives. So without further ado, let me hand over to Vish and Darek.
Hello, everybody. Why don't we first start talking about why we chose this particular topic for today? As many of you know, marketplaces are very cool. Everybody talks about marketplaces now, and that's with good reason. B2B marketplaces are expanding at really horrifying pace. According to most of analysts right now, we're looking at 130% growth year on year. And at this point in time, it is the fastest growing digital sales channel in existence. So it's really not a surprise that telcos are looking into playing part in the marketplace economy, and they are looking to find ways of how to bring that tremendous growth into their business, at least portions of that tremendous growth into their business, and how to add value to their traditional connectivity-based offering with a marketplace type additional offerings included. It's important to understand that that's not the first time that telcos are looking in this direction. We know for years telcos have been trying to enrich the value proposition to their customers, and they have done numerous attempts to enter into different adjacent businesses to theirs. So we've seen telcos going after the hosters business. We've seen telcos going after the cloud business, so trying to commercialize SaaS and infrastructure as a service solutions. And to be honest, they have not been necessarily super successful as an industry. There's always exceptions to the rule, and there's always outliers out there. Some are more successful than others. But if we look at the industry as a whole, we see that the cloud adventure for telcos have not really yielded a particularly meaningful results. From CloudBlue perspective, we're not telco specific. However, telco is one of the most important market segments for us. And if you look at the tier one telcos around the world, 60% of them are our customers. So that we are helping them on the journey. And that's why it gives us a really good vantage point to really make these types of maybe controversial statements. But the simple reality is that so far, when telcos go after cloud SaaS, IaaS type of a business, they really treat these offerings as ancillary additional revenue stream. On one hand, that helps them maybe drive ARPU a little bit, but in reality, they really use it as a churn management tool. So everybody knows in the telco world, the more subscription types of business services you can sell into a customer, the less likely that customer is going to churn away. And that was basically the tool that telcos were using when they were trying to enrich their portfolio. That was then. What is happening right now, we believe, is fundamentally different. And that is because if you look at what the large telcos are doing over the last couple of years, they have really understood that the ability to drive value just with connectivity is just very limited. I mean, at the end of the day, penetration is what it is, in more than 100% in most of the countries. So the ability of simply selling more lines is no longer there. And that's why a lot of the large telcos over the last year and a half, 2 years, really focused on reorganizing, restructuring the entire organizations around delivering much more value-added solutions, and actually are on a journey to become MSPs, become managed services providers. So if you look at the solutions like unified communication as a service, IoT of different sorts, software-defined networks, smart cities, hardware as a service for enterprise customers, all aspects of circular economy, all of this now allows for marketplaces to come onto the stage in the telco world big time. And that's because these types of capabilities cannot be delivered by telcos in-house. They simply don't have those types of capabilities in-house. And that's where marketplaces allow them to enrich the core offering with those additional offerings coming from third parties and offer these much more value-added, much more sophisticated solutions in the market.
Thanks, Darek. So when we look at marketplaces, we break it down pretty simply and probably a little bit too simple. But what we want to do is be really clear around what are the two marketplaces and what are we talking about when we talk about marketplaces. So a lot of us are very familiar with the branded marketplaces. And when we talk about branded marketplaces, we're talking like the likes of Amazon, the likes of eBay. And in these marketplaces, you'll find the same product, but sold by different people, and they're all on show together to eBay's customers and Amazon's customers. When we look at the unbranded marketplaces, we're looking at mainly what's relevant to that B2B space. It's a marketplace which doesn't have the brands of who's selling underneath. It has the brands of the solution that you're actually selling. It could be a license for an IoT. It could be a type of IaaS service or just a license for Microsoft 365. What we're doing is working in that space to build marketplaces around what's relevant to different industries in a vertical side of things. So whether we're talking about healthcare or, as Darek mentioned before, smart cities. And in the unbranded marketplaces, this is the key place that we really want to focus our B2B customers on, and hence the partnership between CloudSense and CloudBlue. As we keep going down into these industries, telco becomes a very big player in this space as we look to start to unbundle these products together and create new solutions. So marketplaces enable our customers to expand really quickly. And why? A lot of telcos are looking at how do they actually make more revenue from their customers. It's not a bad thing. It's because the evolution of connectivity has changed. 10 years ago, data was really expensive. Today, it's become very cheap and needed as a must-have for every business. As the compression on connectivity keeps going, we start seeing telcos needing to find different things to sell. At the same time, customer demands are going up. And what customers want is solutions that are relevant to their business. And these come in different types of solutions that are relevant for them. As part of that becomes licenses, different types of infrastructure, but then also different types of technologies relevant to the industries that they're playing in. So being nimble in the market becomes really important for every carrier. Carriers need to start thinking about how do they partner with all of these new applications, all of these new devices, and all of these new infrastructure players quickly and easily. As we all know, setting up partnerships take a long time. There's a lot of commercial arrangements. The key thing around all of this is using a marketplace takes all that heavy lifting out. Working with a marketplace allows the telco to pick and choose which applications they want, but then also working through around what relationships and price points they actually want to showcase to their customers. Working through with a key CPQ provider allows them to bundle and build things in the right way to provide great solutions for their customers. As we start seeing the demand increase from the market, telcos are going to need to respond really, really quickly. And the results, they speak for themselves. Darek, do you want to just take us through some of the stats you guys are seeing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the exciting part of the marketplace is that they are the front ends in some way. They are front ends for those ecosystems of partnerships that are basically sitting behind the marketplace and making possible for customers to consume a wide array of products and services via this one single access point and this single marketplace. So this is not a fad. This is not another fancy trend that is right now happening. According to studies done by McKinsey, by 2025, which is 3 years away, 1/3 of the entire world economic output is going to either flow or be attached in some shape or form to ecosystems. So this is a really massive, we're talking about $60 trillion of business volume. That is not a surprise then, that if you look at the executives of all sorts of businesses across industries, this is not telco specific, across industries, 3/4 of CEOs believe that if they don't find a way for their businesses to play the ecosystem and marketplace game, their actual existence is being put in question. And that's why 50% of the executive teams are actively working right now on building the marketplace and ecosystem-driven strategies and putting them into action. The good news is the ones that are early adopters, the ones that already have developed a strategy, how to play with the marketplace game in the new ecosystem world, they already see the results, and they see those results both in terms of the top line, so they have a higher top line revenue growth than the ones who didn't do it yet, and they also see improved profitability in terms of actually being able to take that value down to the bottom line.
That's great. Thanks, Darek. So we've spent a bit of time talking about some of the key things as carriers when you think about in setting up a marketplace, etc. But what's the reason around it? What's some of the considerations as a carrier we need to think about? So increase your offer footprint really quickly is one of the key things that I recommend to every telco I'm talking to over the last 3 to 4 months. And the reason for that is the market is changing drastically. We're starting to see the demand of the market move in very interesting ways. There's key verticals are coming out of the pandemic that are becoming more prevalent. So healthcare is now on everyone's radar. And how do they provide greater solutions for them? There are different applications being brought out every week. There's different solutions being provided to hospitals and managing the way the healthcare can operate today and tomorrow. But the one thing that we're hearing from a lot of our customers is, how do we keep up, Vish? How do we keep working through these and making sure we can launch products quickly and easily? And a lot of these is actually, how do they bundle them up with their IoT solutions? How do they bundle them up with their simple iPad solutions to provide doctors with greater visibility? And a lot of this is coming from whether it's a bespoke application available on a marketplace, or it's about providing data storage in a data center and actually linking it through their solutions. Their biggest challenge is, how do they stay ahead of the curve against their competitor? Their competitors signed up with Microsoft and they've got new solutions for them. How do we do that quickly? What solutions can you give us and what can we do differently? The other is to think about, who are your customers? So whilst the enterprise end of customers are looking at their verticals and they're looking at their key strategic areas they want to be growing in, the B2B customers are also looking at automation, and they're also coming out of a very hard time in terms of how do they now make their business grow after this pandemic. What they're looking for is, how do they actually make their operational things go quicker? And they'll be turning to you as carriers to say, what can you do and how can you support me with all these other things? And they also want a solution all from you. They don't want it to come from multiple vendors. They want it to come from you. And like every mum and dad business, the Soho market's growing as well. Connected home, connected office is now going to be the new key thing that people are going to be looking for in terms of how do I have everything hanging off my internet service? How do I support everything from my home base, but be connected wherever I am and what I'm doing? Using a marketplace enables us to accelerate our time to market, but then also keep us nimble in the market to provide the best solutions for our customers. With that in mind, bundling and personalization becomes a really key thing for every market. So whether we're talking to the top end of town in the enterprise space, it's really important that we think about what are the needs of those particular markets. So if we're talking to a car manufacturer, they're now creating connected cars. What solutions do we provide to them aside from just a SIM card as a carrier? We can also provide the applications, the storage, etc. now by partnering with a marketplace and partnering with key solutions to say, this is what we can do quickly and easily without having to go through 6 to 12 months of a build cycle within their stack, within your IT stack. Customers also want to know and make changes at small levels. So have a think about, in terms of when you're modeling these products, how do I make quick changes? It could be to an application, it could be just to an add-on. What are those things that we do differently to enable those things, knowing customers are starting to think about their bundles in very different ways? And enabling your platform to work with marketplaces is extremely important. And as Darek alluded to at the start, it's about what do we do differently now? So what are we doing different in terms of federating the catalog into our CPQ or into our order management system? How are we enabling us to create bundles on the fly and empowering our customers to do things in their own space? And what are we doing in terms of targeting key verticals in those enterprise stacks in terms of what do we offer for those smart cities and how do we use different applications to increase the stickiness of those key solutions? Darek, can you take us through some of the things around the experience side of things we should be aware of as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the user experience, the last of our considerations, definitely not the least consideration, right? If you think about all these sophisticated offerings that Vish just described, that contain both the components of a telco's own intellectual property, own IP and own capability, combined with capabilities of different partners that are used in order to construct this type of an offering, we immediately can see a challenge how to bring that offering in a very uniform manner to the different sales channels that the telcos have. So how to make that sophisticated offer as easy to consume as it is to consume a core offering of the telco today, or connectivity from the telco today, right? If we talk about the requirements that we see in the market in terms of agility, in terms of being able to personalize different components of that offer, in terms of being able to maybe swap the elements of the offer if we see that certain elements do not actually work commercially, this is all very much against how the telcos are really doing a lot of their current processes and a lot of their business today, particularly challenges that are coming from the system side. You know, they're having a very fragmented system landscape that is doing provisioning of different types of services in a different manner is not going to work in this world, because obviously when you offer something to a customer, you don't want your SaaS offering to be active and the customer being billed for it before you actually activated an underlying connectivity piece, so the customer doesn't actually have access yet to what you sold to them. So that ability to orchestrate between the core products as well as the additional products that are part of that bundle becomes fundamental. And it really reflects then on how the telcos are able or not able to commercialize these types of offering successfully and give the user an easy to consume acceptable, excellent experience with the process. So it has multiple different aspects, and I don't want to go through all of these here, but some of this is as well ability to give the right level of service to the different sales channels that you have. You can think that the marketplaces are ideally suited for everything that you can do in a self-serve motion. So ability for customers to go and consume and easily buy and activate. So automation and provisioning, which is completely automated, is absolutely fundamental. But at the same time, there are other types of offerings where the complexity of the offering itself is not really well suited for self-serve. It really needs to be covered by the assisted sales type of motion, and whether it's the telco's own personnel or third parties that are commercializing those solutions, they need a systematic ability. So they need the ability from the system to support that sales motion in a very user-friendly manner. So it's almost like B2C type of experience in a B2B channel, so that that offering can be taken to the market. And as what we've seen traditionally, how the telcos have been doing business today, their existing processes and their existing systems are not necessarily well suited for that type of interaction. And that is also an interesting and exciting part of marketplace story for telcos partners, particularly the system integrators. So the trusted advisors that actually help telcos to structure how to take that business to market, but also that are that have the technical capability of integration, of deployment, of understanding how the existing infrastructure that telco needs to have should work with those marketplace engines or commercialization engines that are needed in order to properly sell offerings on the marketplaces. So it's all about making it very simple for the end user. It's all about providing the end user with Amazon-like purchasing behavior of solutions that are underneath fairly complex, from both the commercial as well as the provisioning side of things.
Over to you, Ed.
Okay, well, thank you, Darek and Vish, and thank you to our audience for sitting in. You have sent through some questions as well, which I'm going to pass on to the two speakers right now. The first question is related to the unbranded marketplace. Who owns the unbranded marketplace?
Darek, do you want to start this one, and I'll
Sure.
chime in?
Well, pick your choice. There is multiple different use cases here, right? What we see that the branded marketplaces that we mentioned are typically the hyperscalers. If you look at the unbranded marketplaces, the ownership can be very different depending on the case. So you can actually have providers of a specific type of a solution that basically provides something, whether it's hardware or whether it's a software solution in a specific, let's say in construction industry, and then that provider, so one of the OEMs in the industry, that then creates a network of partnerships with complementary solutions on top in order to drive their own sales. Obviously, this is what they're interested in, but in a sense where the value of other offerings together with that offering from that manufacturer is actually bigger than just the offering of a manufacturer. So manufacturers very often own some of these. Sometimes we see industry cases. So sometimes we see marketplaces that are third parties. So somebody who actually creates a third party marketplace does not necessarily on their own sell anything on it, but what they do is they allow the orchestration of suppliers and the customers on the other side, and the value of the marketplace is the commercialization, is the go-to-market that flows from the manufacturers to the the sales channels. That would be another use case, for example. I don't know, Vish, anything else comes to mind?
No, I think you just covered the key ones I would have covered, but thank you.
Okay, great. So another question. Telcos have tried branded app stores in the past, but without much success. What are the critical success factors to own a profitable and growing marketplace business, and what do telcos have to do to get there?
Maybe I start again and then hand it over to Vish. I don't know, unless you want to retake this one.
No, you could start this one.
I think I touched on this actually a little bit earlier in the introduction really to the session. Yes, we've seen that absolutely tried over and over and not being successful. For me, really the key differentiator between what happened before and what needs to happen right now is focus. Right? What we very often saw in the telcos, they would come with the fantastic business plans and they really had great ideas. And they said, by year one, I'm going to deploy 50 vendors. And by year two, I'm going to have 100 vendors in my marketplace. And year three, I'm going to have XXX vendors in my marketplace, where we look at it 2 years later and there's 5. And of those 5, they are really simplistic solutions out there. Very often, to be honest, Office 365 based, and actually 90% of the revenue comes from that business. That is what doesn't work, and that's because the telcos were really, from the structure perspective, they were still organized the way they were organized before. What they were paid on was selling more connectivity, whether it's airtime or whether it's data. What their salespeople were enabled to was selling more connectivity, and all these other things were considered basically ancillary offerings around. And it doesn't work like this, right? When you want to offer these offerings in a successful manner, you actually have to start treating all these types of products, whether they are yours or whether they are partners, as your core offering. And then you have to enable your salespeople to sell them, right? So you have to have the training processes, sales enablement motion inside of your own organization that allows you to take those products to market. And if you don't have them, those capabilities, that's also okay, because you can get them on the market. They are available. CloudBlue actually has their own unit. It's part of my organization, where we actually help the telcos, particularly who do not know how to sell complex cloud solutions. We provide white label assisted sales people or assisted sales resources to them. If they do sell, but they are not successful, or they don't know how to support those apps, those complex applications, we provide customer support, which is also white label. And we are not the only ones. There's many other players out there in the world. So it is something that you can get fairly easily. You can actually get those skills into your organization, whether on your own or whether in an outsourced motion, but you have to focus and you have to have a strategy around it. You have to put an investment plan around it, and you have to compensate your entire organization and rewire your entire organization to sell those solutions, not to sell your component of those solutions.
Completely agree with you, Darek. I think the key part with that is keep it simple and focus on the key things you can do. It's no point jumping in and trying to grow that marketplace without knowing which verticals you're going to go after. Every telco plays in different spaces. It's focusing in that space as much as you can, and leveraging the key things that you can complement with what you're selling today to really put focus on that marketplace and allow it to grow properly, as opposed to trying to get mass scale very quickly.
Okay, well, we're approaching the half-hour mark now. So thank you so much, Vish and Darek, for your insights, and thank you for everyone who joined us on the broadcast. This is the first of, I think, a number of webinars and virtual events that we're going to try and planning on hosting over the next coming months, looking into examples of successful telcos within marketplaces. and exploring the selling and support capabilities you need in order to be successful, as well as delineating some of the best practices. And we'll be emailing all the people who registered for this webinar to keep them up to date of any of these future events. But in the meantime, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you for your questions. Any questions that we didn't get around to, we'll answer after the end of the call. And if there's anything else that anyone wants to ask, you can email us at marketing@cloudsense.com. But other than that, thank you very much. Goodbye.